So, here comes the review for Chapter 6. So, there's good news for you in this sense, in this respect. There's really only about 3 things you've got to do on this test. That's not it. It's down here. I'll move that down for a minute. So what are the 3 things you've got to do? Number 1 is obviously you got to know how to factor. That's going to be about 80% of the test. So most of the problems on your test, I'll put down a problem, you have to factor it. No big deal if you know how to factor. Number 2, you're going to have to solve quadratic equations. Remember, a quadratic equation is an equation that has a variable squared, like an x squared in it. That's like what we did in Chapter 6, Section 5. The third thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to differentiate between a linear and a quadratic equation. So there's going to be a part of your test where I give you an equation and I'll say, is this a linear equation or a quadratic equation? And then solve it. So you'll have to pick out which one it is and then use the appropriate strategy for solving it. And we'll review how to do that here in just a few moments. So if you can do those 3 things, you can do this entire test. Because that's what the whole shooting match boils down to. Okay. Do all of you have this document now? Review for Chapter 6?
Yeah, but ours is blank again.
Okay. Well, if I get out in front of you, you'll just have to slow me down. So I put a couple things on here for you. Number 1, I put the guidelines for factoring up here, which say the same thing they've said all chapter long. Number 1, look for a common factor. And number 2, count how many terms. That's the same thing we've been saying over and over again. And of course, if there's 4, we'll do grouping. If there's 3, we'll do the AC method. If there's 2, first we'll try the difference of squares. And if it's not that, we'll try the sum or difference of cubes. I will give you the formulas for factoring the sum or difference of cubes on the test if you remind me to. If you don't remind me to, I might forget. If you take my intermediate algebra class, you won't get those then. By then, I expect you to know them, but on this test, I'll give it to you. If you did the homework, you probably know them already. You know the 5 things we need are a, b, a squared, ab, and b squared. So here's our first one, a squared plus 17a plus 72. Shirley and Aaron, is there a common factor? No. How many terms?
3.
What method? AC method. Okay, now some of you in class said you weren't real fond of the shortcut. So that's fine. We'll just do them the long way on the review. If some of you know the shortcut and want to use it on test, that's fine too. So now we know we're going to take 1 times 72, which is 72. And if we're looking for all the factor pairs, I've been encouraging you to square root that number. If you square root 72, you'll get 8 point and a decimal. Oh, this thing. And so the first number we need to check to see if it goes into 72 is 8. And 8 does go into 72 9 times. They both need to have the same sign because they got to multiply together to positive 72. Did that do it for me or not, Aaron and Shirley? Yes, 8 and 9 did it. So we're going to rewrite it a squared plus 8a plus 9a plus 72. And now it's a grouping problem. Out of those first two terms, a squared and 8a, Aaron and Shirley, what do you want me to factor out? What's it leave me with? There you go. And what do you want me to take out of 9a and 72? A 9. That leaves me with another a plus 8. What's my answer? Yep. Or a plus 8, a plus 9, either one. How many of those you want on your test? I'm feeling pretty good about that one. Okay, well, let's go to this next one. And let's pause for a moment and make sure that Robert and Emily have time to get it copied down. And is 7 the only thing we can factor out? 7k, good. Let's take out a 7k. 7k out of 14k cubed is going to leave 2k squared. 7k out of 7k squared is going to leave k, or 1k. 7k out of 70k is going to leave minus 10. Robert and Emily, what's the strategy for trying to factor what's inside the parentheses now?
AC method.
Yes, the AC method, because it's got 3 terms. Good. 7k is just going to keep coming down. We got 2k squared. We got minus 10. And we'll see if we can rewrite that k now in the middle. 2 times negative 10 is negative 20. The square root of 20 is 4 point, and you're going to get a decimal. 4 does go into 25 times, and one of them is going to have to be negative because we're trying to get a negative 20. So either 4 and negative 5 or negative 4 and 5. Do either one of those do anything for you, Robert or Emily?
Negative 4 and 5.
Negative 4 and 5 add up to positive 1. Good. So I have negative 4k plus 5k. And we're back to 4 terms, and we're back to grouping. Hey, you guys are either faking me out or you're doing pretty well on this. I've been faked out before. I hope that's not the case now. What would the class like for me to factor out a 2k squared minus 4k?
2k.
2k is going to leave k minus 2. Out of 5k and 10, I could take out a 5. That'll leave k minus 2. So how about an answer with a 7k, with a k minus 2, and with a 2k plus 5? What do you think of that, class? Does that seem easy, moderate, or hard?
Easy.
Okay, good. Good to hear. We'll just keep moving along. Your next problem is 4z squared minus 100. Christian and Tristan, is there a common factor in 4z squared and negative 100?
4.
Okay, let's take a 4 out. 4 out of 4z squared is going to leave z squared. 4 out of 100 is going to leave 25. So this time I'm left with 2 terms inside the parentheses. Christian and Tristan, what's the first question I should check for if I have 2 terms?
Is a difference of squares?
Is this the difference of squares?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Z and Z, and 5 and 5, and it's a minus. So I'll go Z and Z, 5 and 5, minus in one of them, plus in the other. Hey class, does that seem easy, moderate, or hard? You guys are saying easy on all of these. Okay, it's good news. Here's the next one. I'll give you a chance to do some copying. Okay, let's mix it up a little bit. Let's put Aaron with Tristan. Is there a common factor on this problem?
Oh.
No, you're both correct. What strategy should I use to try to factor it? Grouping, because it's got 4 terms. Let's group the first 2. Let's group the last 2. What do you want to factor out of the first 2? 3, leaving what? 2 plus m. What do you want to factor out of the last 2? P, leaving what? 2 plus m. Lucky there. They're the same. Woohoo! So how about in our answer a factor of 2 plus m and a factor of 3 plus p? Easy, moderate, or hard?
Easy.
Easy, okay. I kind of squeezed you on room for this 8a cubed minus 27, so I'm going to put it back over here. Let's get the whole class involved on this one. Hey class, is there a common factor? No? Okay. How many terms? 2. What's the first question you should check?
Sum or difference of cubes?
That's the second question we're going to check. What's the first question you check even before that? Is it the difference of squares? Is it the difference of squares first, and it's not here?
Right.
Then is it the sum or difference of cubes, and you guys are right that it is here. And Aaron was saying we should write it as something cubed and something cubed. So what do I cube to get 8a cubed?
2.
2a, and to get 27 I would cube 3. And remember that the 5 things that you need are a, b, a squared, ab, and b squared, and that's the same on every cubes problem. Those are the 5 things that you need. Hey class, what's my a?
2A.
2a. What's my b? 3. Okay. So if a is 2a, then a squared would be 2a times 2a, or 4a squared. AB would be 2a times 3, or 6a. And b squared would be 3 times 3, or 9. And now all I want to do is take those and put them into this second formula over here, because that's the one for minus. So here's my answer. A minus b is now 2a minus 3. A squared plus ab plus b squared is now 4a squared plus 6a plus 9. Hey class, easy, moderate, or hard?
Why wouldn't it be 4a squared minus?
Well, look at your formula. When it's minus here, it's minus in the middle here and plus in the middle over there.
So you don't take, when you do a, b, you don't take 2a minus a negative 3?
No. No. Well, alright. Let's see where that puts us. It looks like every kind of factoring problem, although I know there is one more kind of factoring problem on your test. So let's do that type that I didn't put down here. What if I gave you 10 a to the 5th plus 35 a to the 3rd? And you would ask yourself, class, is there a common factor? Is 5 all? Is 5a all?
No, 5A cubed.
5a cubed. Remember, the variable you can factor out to its lowest power. Okay, so if you take a 5a cubed out of 10a to the 5th, it's going to leave you 2a squared. If you take a 5a cubed out of 35a cubed, it's going to leave you with 7. Now let's see if we can factor that mess. It's got 2 terms. So I first check to see if it's the difference of squares. And it's not. Then I ask, is it the sum or difference of cubes? And it's not that either, so that's all we can do with it. You'll see something like that on your test where all you can do is factor out a common factor. Okay, and that takes care of bullet point number 1 that I started with when I said there were 3 things on this test you had to be able to do. That's number 1. You have to be able to factor, and there shouldn't be a problem on your test that's different than what we just did. Okay, so there's number 1. Number 2, the second thing you need to do on your test, is be able to solve a quadratic equation. So I'll probably put one like this on your test, where I just have something times something equals 0. So if you think about that problem, you've already got the 0. It's already factored, right? So all we have to do is set each factor equal to 0 and solve here. So in this problem, all I'm doing is going 5x plus 7 equals 0, 2x plus 3 equals 0, and then solving. On this first one, if we subtract 7, we'll have 5x equal to negative 7, and divide by 5. X will equal negative 7/5. And on the other one, we'd subtract 3. Get those to cancel. And 2x would equal negative 3. Divide by 2. X will equal negative 3/2. So if it's something times something equal to 0, you're almost done. All you got to do is take each factor, set it equal to 0, and solve. So that's good living. Shouldn't be bad. Okay, then you could see a problem like this. Let me pause for a minute. Okay, so on this problem over here, let's get it equal to 0 first. So, let's subtract 8 from both sides. And let's add 2r to both sides. Sometimes people say, couldn't I have just subtracted r squared from both sides? And the answer to that is yes, you could have. Okay, you'll get the same thing. It's going to look a little different getting there, but you'll eventually get the same thing. So over here, these cancel, and you get your 0. And the thing that we kept saying in class is, when you write your polynomial over here, make sure you write it in descending order. So go r squared plus 2r minus 8. Okay. So step 1 is done, and I don't know what I just did. So maybe I'll pull it back up here. Step 2 is to factor. So we go over here and ask, is there a common factor in r squared, 2r, and negative 8? And there's not. I'll count the terms. It's got 1, 2, 3 terms, so I'm going to do the AC method. R squared stays, negative 8 stays. 1 times negative 8 is negative 8. The square root of 8 is 3 point and then some decimal. 3 doesn't go into 8. Back it off to 2. 2 goes into 8 4 times. One of them's going to have to be negative to get a negative 8. So either 2 and negative 4 or negative 2 and 4.
Negative 2 and 4.
Negative 2 and 4 add up to 2. Good. So go minus 2r plus 4r. And now we'll do grouping. I'll try to keep this problem separated from that other one there. It's going to be hard to do, but anyway. So out of r squared and 2r, we'll take out an r. We'll have r minus 2. Out of 4r and minus 8, we'll take out a 4. That'll leave another r minus 2. it's going to factor r minus 2 times r plus 4 equal to 0. And now the second part of the problem is done because we got it factored. And now the third part of the problem, set each factor equal to 0 and solve. R minus 2 equals 0, or r plus 4 equals 0. Adding 2 gives us r equal to 2. Subtracting 4 gives us r equal to negative 4. Okay, class, is that problem easy, moderate, or hard?
Easy.
Okay, and if we take a look at this problem here, again, we're going to ask if it's linear or quadratic. So on this problem, you're going to answer that it's linear because it's first degree. And if it's linear, that means x is on one side, constants on the other. So I want you to be able to recognize, hey, which one of these types of equations do I have? And then, okay, now that I know which type I have, let me apply the appropriate strategy. So if we put our x's together, maybe I could subtract 5x from both sides. And give us negative 3x minus 6 is equal to, those cancel, and we get 13. So my variables went left, so my constants have to go right, so we'll add 6. So negative 3x is equal to 19. And we'll divide by negative 3. And x is equal to negative 19 thirds. Okay, that's what's coming on your test. Do you feel better about your test or do you feel worse about your test? Okay, I'm going to... So... Oopsie. The review assignment is written on your test somewhere, right? Or on your paper? It's on the back? Hang on a minute.